built and installed these steps in place of the original boarding ladder. And they've served us very well for about 15 years now, I think. But there has been ongoing debate about whether or not it might be worthwhile to consider making them wider so that it's possible to get 2 feet onto each step easily. Right now, yeah, technically you could probably get 2 feet on there, but it's a little cozy. If we widened both the upper one and these lower ones, it would be possible to get 2 feet on each one of them. Now, when I originally built these, I purposely did these cutouts so that you stepped down through the step to the lower one. I also staggered the steps for 2 reasons. 1, to give additional access in and out of the quarter berth and chart table, and 2, again, so that you're stepping between the steps. Also, the 3rd step from the top extends out further than the top one, much like the angle of a ladder would have, and the bottom step extends out further than the step above it. Now, as I said, this debate has gone on, well, ever since the initial installation of these steps, and we've been quite happy with the way they've worked. But we have debated it, and I've looked at it and thought, well, you know, I could certainly make this upper step go all the way across to here. This lower one, if I move the fire extinguisher, could certainly carry over a little bit further, and there would still be plenty of room to get in and out of the chart table nav quarter berth area. This lower step, if I were to carry it all the way across double, it would stop just about where I've got this piece of tape. It actually could serve as a seat when we've got a crowd of people down here. So there's something to be said for that. The lowest step does present a little bit of a challenge in that if I were to carry it all the way over double wide, it would interfere a little bit with getting in and out of the foot area here at the chart table. I've got to think this through just a little bit, but considering making a change here. Now, if I widen this upper step, I can go out to what would end up being about 13.5 inches in width. However, if I bring the step all the way out to here, then this lower step is going to be directly underneath, so it's going to require stepping out and around rather than down. And that, well, it's not an issue if one is coming down backwards like one does in a ladder, or for that matter going up like it does in a ladder. But if you're trying to come down forward, which is the way I typically enter the boat, it would be very awkward getting your leg to bend under and get your heel of your foot onto this second step. Now, if I were to widen this upper step to an overall width of 12 inches, I would put the end of it here. That would give enough room, realistically, to be able to step down and still utilize this lower step. And the lower step, that's not an issue. I could certainly make it 12 inches wide. It wouldn't matter because from this step, you'd be going down to this one and then to the bottom one. So that's a possibility that needs to be considered. Now, what if I were to extend this step by, the step portion anyway, by 3.5 inches? That would still leave about 6.5 inches of space, I'll call it step-through space, to step through and down onto the lower one. So many things to think about. Now, if I take that same 3.5 inches that I was talking about on the upper, and I do the same thing on the step portion here, make a new one that's 3.5 inches wider, that does give enough room to get 2 feet on there. And then with the curvature, we'd still have reasonably good access sliding our feet into the area under the nav station there. So that's an interesting one. Now these steps themselves are actually 1.25 inches thick. I laminated together 2 pieces of plywood in order to get the thickness here. I didn't want these to be able to flex at all, whether it was me on it or someone significantly lighter. So I think what I'm going to do is go back home to the shop, and I'm going to laminate a couple pieces together. I'll go ahead and do a modified version of this lower one and see what I think about it. And I'll hold off on doing anything on this second one for right now, because I don't want to be cutting this trim over here unnecessarily. Down below here, I wouldn't be changing any of the support structure. All I'm doing is making a new step that's going to be a little wider, but it'll fit in to the same mounting system that I've already got. Where this upper one, if I were to put a wider step in here, I would have to trim here. So I think before I cut anything away here, I'm going to take a look down here first, do a little testing. So from up above here, you can sort of see the alternating pattern I was aiming for. Step 1, step 2, and then you come off of step 1 here down to this one, and then finally down to the lower one. Like I say, it's worked pretty well, but it does mean, alternating left, right, or right, left, depending which way you're going and which way you're facing. Where if I were to widen all of these steps, it would be possible to step up, bring the other foot up, step up, bring the other foot up, and so on. Might just make it a little bit easier for some people going up and down this companionway. All right, I'm going to take this original lower step home with me to the shop, and I'm going to mock up a new one that is a 16 inch wide, and then it'll turn and taper in, and see what I think of that. Well, I've got a couple of sheets of teak face plywood here. I have to cut them down and then laminate the two of them together in order to get the thickness I need for this replacement step. Well, it looks like the epoxy I put on these 2 pieces is kicked, so I guess we'll pull them out of the vise here, take the clamps off, and move on to the next step. There is our new, potentially new anyway, laminated step. This is the bottom side, that'll be the top side. It's got much better coloring. So the next step is going to be tracing the pattern. Well, we'll just trace out our shape here. And double check my measurements. Yes, that'll give us a new step that will now be 16 inches as opposed to the original one, which was 11 inches. And, there should be enough room that a person can get 2 feet on it. And by doing this cutout, I'll be able to reuse all of the existing mounts that I put on the boat. All right, time to get the saw out. Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a round off on the edges. And now for the back side, or bottom side, I guess is the proper phrase. All right, let's give this a go. Well, there we go. The old and the new wider. So hopefully that's going to work out fine. I'm going to give it a once over with some 320, put a little bit of varnish on it, and then I'll take it back down and we'll put it in and see if this has been a good idea or a complete waste of some perfectly good teak plywood and time. And if it turns out this wasn't a mistake, then I'll get a piece of Treadmaster to put on here. Since I already had all my materials and tools out, it seemed like a good idea to also assemble a preliminary version of step number 2. Well, it's time for a little test fitting on these 2 new lower steps that I've fabricated. See whether I'm happy with them or not. All right, there's the new lower step in place. And what I've done is just extended it over another, gosh, I forget what it was, 5-6 inches. I still had to do a little bit of a cutout to allow room to get in and out of the foot area under the chart table here. So I think I'm good with this. I still need to take it home and get a few coats of varnish on it and a piece of Treadmaster. Here's the prior step, and you can see the difference where I've added on to it. In my original plans, this was cut out so that one could step down, and one can still step down here. This upper one, on the other hand, is a bit more of a challenge. I've got the new upper just sitting on top of the original one. Compared to what I had originally here, the big difference being, though, I've left this step through to get down to the lower step. If I put this new one in, I'm going to lose step through. You would be able to step a little bit forward, but you're not going to be able to go straight up. I got to debate this a little bit, because in order to install this one, I'm also going to have to do some trimming here, and I don't want to make a cutout here if I decide I don't like the big one, because once it's cut, that means having to fabricate a whole new piece. So I'm going to give that a little thought. Yeah, I haven't convinced myself that that's necessarily the best idea. Well, this bottom step is now complete. It's got several coats of clear varnish on it. So the next thing is going to be to install this Treadmaster onto the step. And this Treadmaster is, I really like this stuff. We've used it throughout the boat in several different places. The neat thing on the steps here is Treadmaster comes in what they call these self-adhesive step pads. And they come in different sizes. This is the long one. I think they call this a size 2, if I remember right. And they've got a shorter one, which is a size 1. And that's a little too small. So we're going to take this size 2 and do a little bit of measuring here and cut it down so that it fits properly. We'll have an inch of teak exposed around on either side of it. All right, well, the nice thing about this stuff is it cuts very easily with just some scissors. And I've duplicated the corners, so I think we're in pretty good shape here. Got about an inch on that side, about an inch on that side. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Put a piece of tape on here as just a reminder of where I want the edge to be. And well, time to peel this backing off and put this stuff down. All right, that is down. Well, there we go. New, wider bottom step. Still got the next one above it to go, and then perhaps widen out the two on the door. But this bottom one is now complete and ready to be installed. After a couple days thinking about it, I completed the second step with a slight modification. There is the new lower step, Treadmaster installed, and the step is set into place, ready to be used. Up above is my latest iteration on the second step. I have actually taken something out here where originally I had thought about having it go all the way across. This would allow me to still step through and down to the lower step, but I have effectively added about 5 inches of width to the step. So I think a person can get 2 feet on here. 1, 2, and 1, 2 here. Now I just have to decide, A, if I like this and want to put the Treadmaster on there and finish it up, and B, if I want to widen these 2 upper steps to approximately this same amount so that one can get 2 feet onto each step. Just seems like I'm making this overly complicated. Well, there it is. New number 2 step installed with the Treadmaster pad on it. So hopefully this will be the big improvement that I've been looking for. Looks to me like it's going to give enough room for 2 feet to very comfortably stand on both of these steps. Now I just need to determine whether or not I want to widen these upper 2. One step at a time, as they say.